I'm 78 years old, and I spent 40 years doing one thing that quietly broke the life I thought I was building. I say it plain, because there's no charm left in dressing regret up. I was not cruel, I was steady, I was responsible. And that steadiness, that responsibility, was the thing that ate us. Now, sitting in a small apartment with 3 boxes I never opened after she left, I measured time in the way old people do, by the absence of things that used to be ordinary. The chair she sat in, the spoon she used for tea, her laugh in the kitchen when she thought no one was listening. Those small presences are gone, and the thing I did for 40 years is the reason. When I was younger, in my 20s and 30s, I believed the story everyone expects to believe. Work equals security. If you keep your head down, the house will be warm, the kids will have what they need, and one day you'll look up and everything will be fine. I told myself that out loud, and I told it to her. I said it like a promise. My work required long hours. It wasn't glamorous. I sold insurance for the better part of my working life and then moved into management. I learned how to make numbers look calm. I learned how to reassure clients. There was always one more report, one more client who needed me, one more meeting that could not be moved. I liked feeling useful. I liked feeling necessary. It started innocently enough. A late night at the office, a business trip that ran a day longer than planned. "I'll make it up to you this weekend," I would say, and she would nod because that's what she did. She would make the dinner and ask how my day was, and I'd answer with clipped sentences and then fall asleep on the couch. Not because I didn't love her, but because the habit of being busy had a rhythm, and I followed it like a map. We had children, 2 of them. When they were small, I missed a recital because a client called and wanted to close a deal. I remember the stage lights through a parent's perspective, the way the mother in the front row waved when our son finished and I wasn't there. I told myself our son would understand when he was older. He didn't need me there for every small thing. He had his mother. She did the small things. There were small choices piled on small choices. I said not now when she wanted to talk about moving closer to her mother. I said we'll see when she asked if we could take that trip we always meant to take. I asked her to postpone appointments so I could make a meeting. I compared offers, budgets, future stability, and I always chose the safe answer that kept everything from tipping. I thought stability was love. I thought predictability was mercy. It's important to understand I wasn't trying to avoid intimacy. I was not afraid of her. I did not look elsewhere. I did not flout vows. What I did, day after day, was make us wait. I deferred tenderness the way one defers repairs. We'll do it later, when the time is right. Later was a concept I treated like a resource that would not run out. There were signs, tiny ones, a folded sweater she left on the porch until the laundry got done, a quiet sigh as she read the mail, a dinner reheated by herself and left on the counter. I noticed sometimes, and I would fix a small thing, call and ask how her day was, come home with flowers once every few months, and then the larger pattern continued. Those fixes were like laying a bandage on a slow leak. It masked the problem without ever finding the source. The cost built like sediment. It didn't feel like a catastrophe. It felt like a dull ache. We argued less about the big things and more about scheduling. We tumbled into resentments that sounded ridiculous to anyone who would have overheard them. An ignored voicemail, a canceled plan, a forgetting of a birthday because the calendar was in my briefcase. She started making decisions without me. She began to buy small things for herself and hide them in the closet. She took up a gardening class, and then a pottery class, and then the PTA when the kids were young. Each new thing was quiet self-repair. I can point to a dozen mornings I thought would be ordinary that turned out to be wedges in the wall between us. The morning she told me she'd been thinking about going back to school for a certification, and I dismissed it because of the budget. The evening our daughter cried because she wanted her father at parent-teacher night, and I told her I'd be there next time. The Christmas I spent late at work and came home to find a note on the table that read simply, "I am tired." I folded it and left it in the drawer, like you would fold a receipt. And then there was the turning point, the thing that finally made the pattern unignorable. She had a stroke. It was sudden and small at first. Her words came out wrong for a day and then right again, or so I thought. We spent a week in the hospital while the doctors ran tests. I sat in the plastic chair by the bed and listened to the hum of machines and the gentle way nurses spoke. People were kind. They told us it might be temporary, that recovery could be good, that physical therapy would help. I was careful in the way men of my generation are careful. Measured words, practical questions about insurance, how many visitors, who would pick up the kids. I made calls, I organized medication, I signed forms. When she came home, she was quieter. She held my hand differently. She began to sleep earlier. I thought we were on the mend, but something had shifted that I did not see. She began to ask conversations about things we'd always put off. She wanted to sort through old letters. She wanted to call her sister in Boston and ask about the father they never spoke of. She wanted to know if we had ever loved each other in the way neighbors on the street loved with ease. She wanted small apologies and small admissions that I did not think mattered anymore.
I still thought the right thing was to be practical. I hired extra help for the house. I rearranged my meetings so I could be physically present for appointments. I was present in body, but I could not come back from the rust that had built in the spaces between us. She wanted to repair the emotional ledger. I wanted to balance the books. One afternoon, while she was making tea, she looked at me and said plainly, "You always said later." It was not angry. It was exhausted. It was the sound of someone who had been waiting for decades. I heard the weight in those two words like a verdict. She left a month later, not in the way movies show, not dramatic, not with shouting. She left by degrees. She took her things and went to stay with her sister for a while. She needed a break, she said. She needed space. I told myself she would come back. I stacked her teacups back where they belonged and told myself that space was a temporary thing that would be mended. She did not come back. The letters came in weeks after. Short notes at first. I'm thinking about us. I need time. I am not happy. Then fewer words. I called. I visited. I sat in parking lots outside her sister's house and rehearsed conversations that never took place. She wrote once, "We are different now." She meant it as an explanation and a farewell at the same time. What broke me was not just the leaving. It was the realization, much later and far too late, that everything I had assumed would be fixed by time actually could not be fixed at all. Time doesn't return what it takes. The missed recitals, the dinners, the small afternoon smiles, they do not accumulate into a single thing you can reclaim. They are gone like water through a sieve. There's a clarity to that fact that is brutal and ordinary. You cannot retroactively sue the hand you did not hold. You cannot apologize enough for a presence you withheld for years. I tried. I sent letters that said the things I had never managed to say aloud. I read passages from old books that she used to love. I left a scarf on her doorstep. I wrote, "I was trying to be secure for us. I see now that I chose security instead of presence." She replied once with a line I cannot forget, "Security without me isn't security at all." There are things I cannot fix. Her laugh, for one. I can remember it. I can tell you how it sounded when she laughed at something small and unimportant, but I cannot bring it back into the room. I cannot meet her eyes for the first time again at the kitchen table. I cannot change the way our children learned to solve things without us, or the way they adopted patterns because we modeled them. Regret is a strange thing. It is not an emotion that arrives all at once. It's a slow unspooling where you notice the thread you pulled and then everything that came loose after. For years I thought regret would be a dramatic bloom. Instead, it is the small, constant awareness that you could have done something else at the cost of your pride or your comfort, and you didn't. People will tell you to forgive yourself or to learn from it, and I know those are the kinds of sentences people say because they don't know what else to do. What I can tell you, plainly and without ceremony, is what I would have chosen if I had known. I would have chosen being present over being right. I would have answered a recital with my attendance instead of my apologies. I would have sat with her when she wanted to talk about nothing until it became everything. I would have admitted I was afraid of being insufficient and let her hold that fear with me. I would have said sorry sooner, and I would have said it often, not as a performance, but as a daily practice. If you are younger than me, if you are listening and you have the room to change, don't mistake my steadiness for wisdom. Steadiness can be a mask for avoidance. Being the dependable provider can become a way of avoiding the small interruptions that are actually the parts of life worth living. I do not say this to reprimand. I say it as someone who is tired of polite evasions. If you are married or planning to be, or simply living your life with someone you love, notice the small erosions. Notice the way days stack and become habits. Notice the little cancellations for just this once. They add up. There are moments of gratitude in this mess. I am grateful for the years we had that were good. There were winters we laughed about nothing. There were summers when we drove to the shore and sat on a bench and watched the gulls, and she traced patterns on the sand with her shoe. Those memories are luminous, and they are mine to keep. They are not, however, a substitute for what I failed to do. If this means anything to you, I ask only that you be honest with the people you have. Say the small things. Put down the briefcase. Go to the recital. Sit through the awkward school play and watch the child on stage, even if you're tired. Ask the person you love how their day was and follow it up an hour later with a question about a detail. Those acts are not grand. They are not certificates of virtue. They are, in the end, how we prove the currency of our lives. I am not offering a moral that will make you like me. I am offering the testimony. I am telling you what 40 years of a single decision looks like from this side. A life that on paper looked safe and respectable, and in practice lost what mattered because safety became an alibi. There is acceptance in the way old people find acceptance, not the tidy one, but the raw one. I accept that she left. I accept that I cannot undo what I did. I am learning not to make more promises I cannot keep to myself. The days ahead of me are smaller than they used to be. They are also clearer in a way I did not expect.
clarity at this age is a kind of mercy. If this meant something to you, if you feel your life tilt toward the same sort of steadiness I chose, think of this as a small warning from someone who has paid in time. If you are willing, tell someone you love something you keep postponing. It is not dramatic to do that. It is, possibly, everything. I will sit with the silence now. I will make tea. I will put on a record she liked and listen to one song all the way through. That's the sort of thing I can do now. Small acts, honest and unhurried. It is not a remedy. It is what remains.